Today we're diving into a topic that I would say touches all of our lives. We want to explore a bit the profound implications of increasing longevity here in Italy.
Yes, it's a huge topic.
Exactly. We've looked at some very interesting materials. They come from the Radio 24 series, Esse Domani, Stories of Everyday Longevity, produced with Generali. The goal of our analysis? Well, to try to understand the challenges, but also the opportunities that a longer life presents to us. It's an epochal change, in my opinion, full of nuances.
Absolutely. And these materials, immediately highlight a central paradox. It's interesting.
Oh, really? Which one?
Well, on one hand, there's this gift, incredible, more years of life. We're talking about life expectancy at birth. Over 81 years for men, 85 for women. And with recent remarkable progress, right? Almost 5 months gained in just 1 year.
Impressive.
Really. But on the other hand, there's this need, almost an urgency, I'd say, to rethink everything. How do we protect ourselves financially? How does our healthcare system work? How are our societies structured?
Of course.
Living longer is fantastic, a real achievement. But the question that lingers everywhere in these materials is, are we really ready? Ready to face all the consequences in every aspect? It's
a heavy question, isn't it? And the documents we've seen make this clear. The increase in life expectancy is not something in the future. It's here, now, in Italy.
It's reality.
And it's a reality that, as the analyses say, raises questions we can no longer postpone. About financial sustainability, for example. Both our own, personally, and everyone's.
Exactly.
Think about stories like Franco's, one of the cases mentioned. He describes himself as part of the sandwich generation.
Oh yes, the one squeezed between elderly parents and children.
Exactly. Parents who are living longer and need care or support, and children who might still need help. And often, this generation achieved job stability later in life, maybe with salaries that aren't very high.
A complicated situation.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you prepare financially? For a future that could be much, much longer than what our grandparents imagined, for example. And
here you're really hitting a sore spot. A cultural aspect that the materials describe as problematic for Italy.
What do you mean?
I mean this deep-rooted distrust towards insurance instruments. Especially those for individuals, We're talking about chronic underinsurance.
Really?
Yes, without mincing words. There's a statistic that's quite striking. If we exclude car insurance, which is mandatory, insurance premiums here are just 1% of GDP. The European average is 2.4%.
That's quite a difference. It is
a huge gap. And it's not just a number, It reflects a certain mindset, perhaps. The one that still sees the state or liquid savings, the money set aside, as the main shield.
the old mattress almost.
In a way, yes, but it's a model that, when faced with lives that are getting so much longer, it starts to show its cracks. Obvious ones.
I understand the cultural roots, but I wonder, isn't there something else as well? Maybe these products, I don't know, are seen as complicated, unclear, or maybe too expensive for families who are already struggling beyond just distrust, pure distrust.
That's a fair and relevant observation. Cultural distrust definitely mixes with the perception of complexity and cost. And also with a long-standing habit of relying on public welfare, right?
Of course, our system has long been very protective.
Exactly, the materials mention this. The Italian public system, especially when it comes to healthcare, has provided a broad safety net for a long time. And this may have reduced the perceived need for additional private coverage.
That makes sense.
However, the analyses we've gathered warn that this model is becoming less and less sustainable. A key point that emerges, for example, from the words of Professor Emanuela Notari, is that assistance, welfare, and social security in the future, can no longer be managed by the state alone. In fact, to some extent, that's already the case today. So tools like supplementary pensions or specific insurance policies are becoming almost a necessity, no longer just an option.
You can really see this in real-life stories. I'm thinking of Valentina, 50 years old, also part of the sandwich generation. She says she set up pension funds for everyone in the family, but she's only able to contribute minimal amounts. She says that between everyday expenses and her children studying away from home, it's almost a miracle to keep up with those contributions. She relies much more on the savings she's accumulated. There's an awareness of the risk, but then there's the practical difficulty.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is. And the most insidious risk of longevity, as Professor Notari points out again, is outliving your own savings.
That's a powerful concept, isn't it?
Very much so. Relying only on the capital you've accumulated, maybe keeping it liquid in your account out of fear or convenience, exposes you to this danger, especially today with such long life expectancies. What you need is a more, how should I say,
Structured.
forward-thinking.
And this financial pressure on individuals is mirrored by the pressure on the collective system, our public healthcare in particular.
Yes, the
Materials use strong language, don't they? They talk about a growing crisis, even a storm, a perfect one. Quoting Rosanna Magnano,
yes, the situation is worrying.
the problems identified seem to be mainly two. Underfunding, which now seems chronic.
Exactly. And
The waiting lists, those endless ones for appointments and tests. The
numbers being provided are, well, they speak for themselves and confirm this feeling. Italy spends about 6.4% of its GDP on public health care,
it seems like a lot, but
but it's less than the OECD average. It's much less than countries like the United Kingdom, Germany, and France. They are at around 9, 10, 11%.
wow. And
Now, a trend they say is actually going down. This underfunding then translates into real problems for people,
like the waiting times, for example.
which are extremely long. And what does this lead to? It leads to, and the data collected clearly show this, an ever stronger push toward private spending. The kind we pay out of our own pockets. The famous out of pocket.
What kind of numbers are we talking about?
We're talking about staggering amounts. Over 40 billion euros estimated in 2023.
40 billion?
Yes. And this is almost a quarter, 24% of the country's total healthcare spending. Well above the 15% that the WHO indicates as the limit to guarantee equity.
And who pays these 40 billion?
The vast majority, almost 45 billion. Actually, if we include everything, it comes from families. Supplementary funds, insurance, they still cover only a small part, about 6.5 billion.
Situation that, as you said, raises serious equity issues, right? Those who can't afford private care risk being left behind.
The risk is there, it's real. There's an ISTAT figure from 2024 mentioned in the materials that's thought-provoking. It says that 1 in 10 Italians had to forego visits or tests.
Forgo?
Yes, forego. Because of waiting lists that are too long or costs that are too high. And this figure is getting worse compared to the previous year. So the barriers to access, both in terms of time and cost, are increasing.
And behind the waiting lists, the materials also point to the lack of healthcare personnel.
Yes, another clear point. It's estimated that at least 65,000 nurses are missing. Hundreds of pediatricians are lacking, as well as thousands of general practitioners. In fact, the Bank of Italy estimates that 30% more doctors will be needed over the next 10 years. In this scenario, on one hand, it's clear that the public sector needs to be strengthened, but on the other hand, there's also an almost complementary need to develop private and supplementary coverage that is more robust and accessible.
Like health insurance policies or those for loss of self-sufficiency, long-term care, LTCs, right?
Exactly.
But as we mentioned, there is a deep sense of distrust.
Yeah, we're back to that issue. LTC policies, the ones designed to cover costs if you lose your independence as an elderly person. An extremely high risk, with almost 4 million people estimated to be non-self-sufficient in Italy.
Huge risk.
These policies are still very rarely used. Less than 2% of the population has specific coverage. Premium collection is very low, even if it's growing a little. We're talking about around 220 million in 2022 for those that provide an annuity, and even less for those that reimburse expenses.
And this is linked to general underinsurance, to the culture.
Yes, but there are also real difficulties in accessing these coverages. There's the story of Sarah, 43 years old. She talks about the struggle she went through to find a supplementary health insurance policy because she had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, even though she had been well for years.
Ah, I see.
This shows that there's also an issue of accessibility of how companies assess risk.
Of course. So far, we've talked a lot about challenges, risks, and systems under pressure. But the analysis offered by the materials doesn't stop there, does it?
No, fortunately it doesn't.
It also introduces different concepts, perhaps a more optimistic, certainly more dynamic vision of aging. They talk about active aging, active aging. What exactly does that mean? It sounds like an invitation to change the way we see things. And
It's truly a paradigm shift that is being proposed. We need to overcome the somewhat stereotypical, somewhat passive image of the elderly as people simply in need of assistance. Almost a burden. Active aging, as defined by the WHO since the 1990s, has moved from healthy aging to active aging, a broader concept. It means seeing the elderly population, which, let's remember, will make up a third of Italians by 2050.
a third,
Seeing them as an active group, protagonists of their own lives, able to participate, contribute, and remain integrated in society and the economy. It's not just about physical health, but also about involvement and fulfillment. And
connected to this, there's another fascinating concept, the longevity economy. It almost seems strange to think of aging as an economic driver.
And yet, that's exactly how it is. The longevity economy is the sum of all economic activities, products, services, and consumption generated precisely by this longer living segment of the population, and hopefully an active one.
So not just costs.
Exactly, the data makes it very clear. People over 65, the so-called Silver Society, are not just a cost for pensions and healthcare, they are also an important economic force.
What comes to mind is that amusing example from the materials of the not-so-young motorcyclists riding their expensive bikes through the hills of the Langhe.
Ah yes, it's a perfect image. It breaks the mold.
Definitely. And
In fact, Thomas Osborne from the Italian Institute of Competitiveness is mentioned precisely for this reason. The Silver Society, which already makes up a quarter of the Italian population today and will continue to grow,
a quarter already today. It is
made up of often fierce consumers with significant individual spending, and they hold an important share of wealth, especially real estate, and their consumption isn't just medicine or healthcare, right?
I imagine not.
Their interests range from quality food to housing, sometimes adapted to transportation, culture, travel, personal services, and technology that helps in daily life.
So the longevity economy isn't just about caregivers and nursing homes.
Far from it. As Professor Notari explains well, of course, it includes everything needed to support this longer life. Pension funds, quality care facilities. But it also includes sectors such as tourism, leisure, continuing education, and long life learning.
Ongoing training is essential.
Fundamental. Think about careers that could last 50 years. You need to update yourself. And then there's the whole market of wellness, prevention, and assistive technology. It is a huge and growing economic ecosystem.
And this also affects work, I imagine. On one hand, the aging of the workforce. On the other, perhaps people who want or need to work even after retirement.
Both aspects are present in the materials. It is evident that the majority of young seniors, let's say between 65 and 74 years old, are retired. Yes, 83.3%. However, there is a not insignificant portion that continues to work.
Interesting.
And not always just out of economic necessity. Sometimes it's a choice. They want to stay active, productive. And this helps to age better. And at the same time, the active workforce is aging. The over 50 age group is growing in terms of employment. And
What does this mean for companies?
it brings new challenges. They have to rethink their strategies. Flexibility is needed. Ongoing training, also suitable for older employees, perhaps forms of mentoring where young people teach technology and older people share their experience, job sharing, benefits, and adequate healthcare.
It seems that active aging is not just an individual matter, but also requires adaptation from the productive system.
Without a doubt. And let's not forget another risk of longevity mentioned by Professor Notari: social isolation. The loss of purpose, especially after retirement.
True. A real risk.
Active aging also addresses this. Maintaining relationships, feeling useful, having interests. The materials mention the example of Nonna Licia, the 90-year-old influencer. A symbol of vitality, of commitment, she says. Communicating with others is the most beautiful thing.
Beautiful. And
In this, technology, the internet and social media, if used well, can also help people stay connected, mentally and socially active.
so if we try to sum up this exploration of ours, based on the materials from Esse Domani, a complex but clear picture emerges. On one hand, Italy faces enormous challenges regarding longevity. Rethinking financial protection so as not to outlive one's savings.
Exactly.
The pressure on the healthcare system, which struggles with limited funds and long waiting times. On the other hand, however, important opportunities can be seen. A new way of living, the third and fourth ages, active aging as a resource, and the longevity economy as a potential engine of growth.
Yes, and that's exactly the picture. And adapting to this new demographic reality, as the analyses strongly suggest, requires a profound rethinking on multiple levels.
On an individual level,
We need greater public awareness, more comprehensive financial planning, and maintaining healthy and active lifestyles for as long as we possibly can.
and on a collective level,
We need to rethink welfare, healthcare, labor policies, even cities themselves to make them more suitable for the elderly, more age-friendly. The
materials also mention some institutional attempts, such as the bonus for family caregivers.
Yes, they mention it.
But they describe it as still very limited. We're talking about negligible amounts, 40 to 50 euros per month, depending on the region. It's difficult to implement properly also because in Italy there is still no comprehensive national law that truly recognizes and supports this role, which is crucial. We're almost the last in Europe not to have one. There's a kind of disconnect, isn't there? There's a tension between how fast demographic change is happening and a certain slowness in the responses, both in individual behaviors. I'm thinking of the distrust toward insurance or the difficulty in planning and in reforms.
Yes, a certain inertia.
The historical dependence on public welfare, despite all its past merits, perhaps slows down change a bit.
That could be. In conclusion, what clearly emerges from the materials we've seen is that we are in the midst of a demographic and social transformation, silent but extremely powerful. And
And
this leaves us with an open question to reflect on. It's a question that's almost left hanging for those who are listening to us. At what speed? With what awareness and foresight? People, families, institutions? Will the whole of Italian society be able to fully embrace both the responsibilities and the enormous potential of these longer lives? It's
the crucial question, truly, for shaping the country's future.
absolutely. The indications suggest that there is still a long way to go. To move from seeing longevity almost solely as a problem to a perspective that can fully grasp its extraordinary opportunities as well.